So we're today's topic that we're talking about is on brain health. Many of us, including myself, have had that experience in with our loved ones. And just to share a bit about my sort of family history, my mother, who passed about 2 years ago, last month made 2 years, she had diabetes. So she had a second bout of diabetes, which caused, a diabetic related stroke, which is a brain disorder. And during that second phase, we discovered that she had mild to moderate dementia. Now, since then, I've learned that, someone who has diabetes are at higher risk of developing dementia or Alzheimer's, depending on the level of stage that they're at with their brain disorder. So today we're talking about different things, and not just diabetes or sort of like related to dementia, but different types of brain disorder or brain injury. And so we know that, over time, depending on different stages in your life, people can experience, or some people can experience, memory loss, dementia, Alzheimer's, cancer, Parkinson's disease, and so many other type of uh, illnesses. But also there's things like concussion, which I actually had at one stage due to a fall, and well as brain cancer, which I do have a very dear friend who had a brain tumor and then she went through chemotherapy. Now she also has migraines, severe migraines. So there's different types of situations that may impact your overall well-being. But in this case, and I'm going to also stress again, just to make sure everyone those who have joined, not exactly at the time that we started, I am not a doctor. I am not a health practitioner. I am a health enthusiast along with my husband. So it is our sort of our calling in life that we've actually placed on our hearts. We want to have a life of significance and contribution, and we can do that through health, being advocates for our loved ones and for friends that we can support along our life journey. So we know some individuals go through migraines or tension headache, which I actually do get tension headaches from time to time. My mom, in my case, she had two strokes. Both were related to diabetes. There's Alzheimer's, epilepsy, Parkinson's, and so forth. There's something else that's not on here, and please feel free to take a screen capture if you wish to or write notes. I had an aunt who passed away about 14 years ago, and she had a form of Pick's disease. And just to let you know, in the Black community, Pick's disease is not very common. It's more in, European white males at the time. So that's a very uncommon illness to have. And that had a lot of things that we had to question because in our whole family, down from our maternal side, we had no form of that type of illness, not even dementia. And so that's something we sort of looked into. And then we went to, for example, the Dean of Medicine in London to get more information. And all of that, in addition to PIC, she developed ALS. So back to back two illnesses, which took her life before I knew about what I'm going to share with you. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about being proactive with one's health. And so what I want to encourage you to do is just feel that you're in a safe space. If in a safe space you want to speak, ask questions toward the end after I present, please feel free to do so. The person who invited you, you can actually reach out to them and we can have a private conversation if you wish to, if you want more to ask more questions. So memory loss, we know in different ways can happen, not just from brain disorders. For example, some people go through pregnancy and they have, they call baby brain. Some people may have an injury where they had a concussion, like myself, where I fell about a year and a half ago and didn't know I had a concussion at the time because I didn't have the symptoms of nausea or blurry vision, but I later developed a headache for 10 days and saw spots in my eyes, my left eye. So when I went to do a follow-up test for my eyes, my vision and the back of my eye, I was told, yes, you did have a concussion, which I didn't know, but thankfully I was consuming what I was going to share with you in the latter presentation. And so there are different type of stages in our life where we may experience things. Most of us may not have these particular illnesses I'm sharing, but you may know of someone or heard in a conversation. And brain injury is something that takes a long time, if you can, to recover from as well. So what I'm sharing you onto my right, these are published medical research. Now there's a go-to website I like to go to, which is the public library of medicine. And this is where all doctors go to find their findings. And these are not, there's no vested interest for the people who publish them. There's no interest in the way of conflict of interest when they post this information. So you can, at your own diligence, you can actually, take a picture or write down the ID numbers, and you can search through PubMed.gov if you'd like to do that yourself and get the full description. So I took highlights of each one so that you can have sort of like a insight into what I'm sharing. So we know Alzheimer's is a disease. That's one of the things I'm touching on as well. Main thing I'm speaking of is the neurodegenerative diseases. And so one of the things that we have found out over time, especially when I took mom to her appointments for her assessment, and also doing my own research to find out why this happened. Most of us, our body is lacking either the right nutrients, the right type of perfect type of, or the right type of foods to eat, or the exercise and so forth. But main thing that can happen could be stress as well. So for me is looking at how you can improve your memory, how you can reduce your stress level. And also, there are also studies in here that talks about the what I'm going to share with you, that it's anti-tumor. So what I'm speaking of right now, and I haven't said what that is actually called a superfood called Ganoderma, which is also known as reishi mushroom. And so if you've heard of mushrooms trending in the market or in the media, or you see it in stores, you wonder, what is that? So what I'm sharing with you is one of the few mushrooms that I actually found for myself and my family to be most beneficial. And of course, you can do your due diligence. So these PubMed studies are about Ganoderma. So one other thing too that's been known to help with brain disorders is acupuncture, which I actually didn't know until later on, post my mom's passing. Acupuncture is something that your traditional doctor may not tell you about, but you may have a chiropractor or you may have a naturopathic doctor that you can refer to, and they can refer you to a traditional Chinese acupuncturist or someone who practices acupuncture here in Canada or whatever countries that you're visiting, you are watching this from. And so I share this with you because when you have you're giving your body the right thing, or your brain the right things, what it needs, it will respond. The body doesn't lie, it tells you exactly how it feels, right? So one of the things that I didn't eat before, I sort of ran away from, was mushrooms in the edible form. Now, my husband loves mushrooms. He can eat all day. I'm the opposite. I'm the opposite. And so, but I'm able to still consume it in a different form and still get the benefits from it. So if you're like me, your palate, tells you exactly what it doesn't like, your body tells you what it does and doesn't like, then he says I'm a picky eater, but who's not a picky eater, right? So one of the things I've found, and here's a list of other a list of mushrooms that I will not expand on, but you can actually take a screen capture of this as well. But one of the things I fell in love with so far in the last year is lion's mane. It also helps improve your cognitive function. And so if you're able to eat that, great. If you're able to eat some mushrooms that are not bitter, or you can have the tincture form, great. But there are other ways you can consume it as well. So alleviating these disorders, it actually, there are ways to do that, to combat it. Now, is there a cure for these illnesses? So far, no, but is there a way to improve it and to reduce some of the impact to your overall well-being and health? Yes, right? So, for example, according to World Health Organization, this type of brain disorders like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or Huntington's disease or MS, it actually causes you to have, your limitation with your movement and your mental dysfunction. And so this is something that your body will over time, your body sort of goes into a downward spiral health decline, because it's sort of trying to protect itself, but on the same time, it's fighting against something that it may not be able to win if you're not giving it the right things. So here's another PubMed study to tell us that shows that the medicinal mushrooms, I'm going to skip a few, but Ganoderma and lion's mane are my two favorites so far that I've actually been consuming for myself and my family, and for those that we come in contact with and we share the knowledge with. To your left, I took a little screen capture of some of the things that this mushroom is known to help with, improve with. Again, you can find the studies through PubMed.gov, which is a public library of medicine. And so for me, I've noticed with myself a better quality of sleep, my skin, and this is just the outward part for me. But for me, overall, for my mental alertness, is something that a lot of people who have a decline in their brain disorders are actually finding a challenge, like memory and brain fog, and you find issues with your decline in your motor skills. So these are things that you may have noticed or heard about or read about, but I'm just bringing a sort of like an overall as to what my research has shown. Now, dementia, I mentioned to you before, that's what my mother had. She had a mild case of it. Now, there's severe cases, of course, and there's a certain lifespan that your loved ones are told that, with this disease, you can live to this age because they've done the research, right? So no one can determine how long you're here on earth except God, but I'm ashamed to you that this is something that has been done through the studies and the findings and the research through medical research. So dementia in my world also impacted because of the diabetes that my mom had. So my mom had type 2 diabetes. Some have type 1, but also there's a discussion being held in the world's platform about the type 3 diabetes. And that actually is inflammation in the brain, which can trigger Alzheimer's, dementia, and other brain disorders. So what I would say to you is, if you know someone who's going through diabetes or early stage of diabetes, have them check or have them tested for, if they are, at risk of Alzheimer's or dementia, this small trace, so that they can do something proactive with their health, right? So the risk is higher for those who are more severe and poorly managed diabetes. And so the longer you have diabetes, the higher the risk is. So my mom she was at 55, which we accidentally found out because I sort of was nosy at the time. And I found out she was diabetic. And then, of course, she had a first stroke, a mild stroke years later. And just to be fair to my mom, and we're like this as well, we may take vitamins and we stop, we're good. We get on this health kick, and sometimes 90 days out, you forget to take your vitamin C, vitamin D, all that stuff, because we're not as habitual in our consumption of vitamins. We know it's good for us, right? So in my case, in my mother's defense, she would take her medications, metformin, all these things that she had to take, or Janimet at the time, blood thinners, all of these things, because, they know that high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes go hand in hand, right? And so in those cases, she may have forgotten to take, or she may have missed a couple of days. So it became a pattern. That's how she got the first stroke. And then, of course, not knowing she had mild to moderate dementia before she had the second stroke, massive stroke, left her bedridden. We didn't know that, because that's not a conversation that was had with our doctors, and I didn't know to ask those questions. But going through the workshops and learning different things, I later found out after she had her second stroke about this risk of dementia. So eating right, exercising, all these go hand in hand with an overall well-being. But when you're in that particular set, like diabetes, or if you had a stroke, there's certain fears that you can actually sort of have that your children or your parents may not know, because it's not verbalized. In my mom's case, she may have chosen foods that weren't as healthy to eat at certain point, or not be as active. And that actually can go with hand in hand with different things like depression, or in different types of things like memory. So the brain disease can affect many areas: your sight, your hearing, your taste, your touch, your cognition. In my mom's case, she got her sight was okay, And I'll share with you why her sight was okay, even though she was wearing glasses. Her mood was okay, her speech was okay, her motor skills was not because of that stroke she had. But the function of the organs of the system were impacted as well, and it can also cause seizures in some. So there are, some mild to moderate symptoms, so severe symptoms of brain disease. And so one of them is hearing. So I'm going to mention my mom again in this situation after she had her stroke. They wanted to make sure that her hearing was not impacted because it can lead to dementia or Alzheimer's or depression. So if someone you know in your family has had a brain disorder and your doctor hasn't asked you, when was the last time you checked the hearing, you need to book an appointment for that and have them check the hearing of the person who's been impacted that way because it's linked. So the source I got this information from was a journal of the American Geriatric Society. You can do your own diligence as well and search it there. But I knew from my personal experience that this is something that is a real risk of you developing Alzheimer's or dementia later on because your hearing impacts that as well. Now, another thing as well, now if you're like me, you like the quick and easy sometimes food, growing up, it's just easy just to, dine and dash sometimes, but it's not healthy for all overall well-being. So the studies that show that, highly processed meat, starches may risk, you having a higher chance of brain disorder, sorry. And in this case, we all know we're supposed to eat healthy. We know that, right? But how does it relate to your overall well-being? Then you have to, everyone's different, right? Everyone's body's different. You may be able to eat the kale and some others are allergic to kale. So you may be able to eat some superfoods and some people cannot because of their system. But the thing is to also have things in moderation. Now, if you're leaning towards a better health, a better you for 2025, then over time you can replace the unhealthy eating with healthier foods that will help you, especially with your brain function. Because your body may be starving nutrients because you're not giving it the right nutrients for your brain to function well. I know there's some people talk about menopause as well, that they get bad brain fog or they forget things a lot. And it could simply be, and there's a gentleman called Gary Brecker, who's called a human biologist. You can watch him on YouTube as well. He speaks about most people are nutrient deficient. Your amino acids may be low, or you may be deficient in vitamin D or something else, but it's showing up as a different symptom. So another tip I want to give you is that if you do your blood work as well, things like vitamin D is not tested when you do your regular blood work. So even if you do a full blood workup, you need to ask your doctor to get you a test like that, although you have to pay for it. So that sort of helps you as well. So there's many things you can do to be proactive. Eating right is one of them. Choosing the right foods, either consulting your doctor, get you a dietitian to refer you your loved ones. And then, if you're not a vegetable person or a fruit person per se, there are ways you can incorporate that into your system. But in addition to the right foods that you can buy, with your green and leafy vegetables and your fruits and your protein, that's not highly processed, of course, is you can think of superfoods. Now, there's different kinds of superfoods in the market, but one that I gravitate to is called Ganoderma. And the one thing I've noticed as well, I'm going to share this with you as a side note, is that I found that when you consume superfoods, the right ones for your body, it also promotes better sleep. Another research shows that there's a link between this, sleep deprivation or sleep insomnia, or, less sleep can also trigger dementia over the time. And there's such a thing as short-term dementia and long-term dementia. I learned as well when I was doing the workshop with my aunt, for my aunt when she was diagnosed with PICS. And the fact that the less you sleep, the more your brain doesn't have an ability to restore itself. And so the dementia can be dormant or very the symptoms may be minimal in symptoms over time, and then you may have greater signs showing, like my aunt at the time. So PICS is a form of dementia, but it's a different category. Just wanted to highlight that. So there are actually studies that show that the amount of sleep you get, or the sleep cycles you get, or if you're in REM sleep, so to speak, can influence your risk of developing Alzheimer's or even dementia as well. And so to the right, I'm showing you like a picture of this little fan-looking mushroom. It's actually the Ganoderma I was speaking to you about. And so here's some of the things that it can actually help with. And I sort of put the arrow towards the where it says supports the quality of sleep. Some of us, we are so busy with life. Sometimes you have 1, 2, 3 jobs, or you have a job, or you're working, or you're taking care of your family, or you have studies, and you sleep in your mind. You can sleep later. And trust me, I'm guilty of that at times. But your body needs a chance to restore itself. So eating the right things and sleeping the right time and getting sufficient sleep. And some of you may have night jobs, or if you're a nurse and you're working, hours that are like you have to switch your shifts, or someone's a doctor, or you have a night shift or a day shift job, and then the time you need to take care of your family plus take care of yourself can be challenging. And sometimes it's a balancing act that at times you find that you can't manage every single day, but at least you can try to take the right steps. So I'm actually sharing this with you, and another thing as well is exercise. Exercise is positively have been shown to improve your mood, and I can attest to that. When you take the time for self-care in the form of exercising, whether if it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, depending on what your body is able to do, it actually elevates your mood, your mental health, your mood. If you're going through depression, sometimes you don't even realize you're going through depression, PTSD. Some people have schizophrenia symptoms or autism. So these are all brain disorders. You're looking at your brain health. Now, if that person who has a severe case of a brain disorder like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and so forth, their balance might be off, or the equilibrium might be off, and so they may need the support to go out and walk. I can share with you my mom, when she had her first stroke, and I would encourage her to go walking around the neighborhood. She would say yes, but not do it. And then over time, I sort of picked it out of her mouth to hold it out to ask her, well, why don't you want to go for a walk? You have your cane, but you can walk fine. You don't need the cane, and you can walk around, just take 10, 15 minutes. And I finally got it out of her that she was afraid of falling, which she never fell. She hadn't fallen before in her life. Well, I guess as a kid, but since I'm in my birth and knowing her, she's never fallen. And so when she had her first stroke, she was actually driving. So thank God at the time, she was able to walk away from that. But there are things that you may have a loved one who have these situations. You say, well, why don't you exercise? Why don't you do something? But sometimes they won't tell you that they're afraid of falling. It's just a fear that in their head that's a possibility, right? So also for depression is another thing as well. When my mother had the second stroke, when the doctors and the heart doctor and her family doctor said, look for signs of depression, even though they're smiling. And that also is the case with my aunt. When she was diagnosed with PICS, her behavior switched. She actually, when she was crying, she was smiling, and when she was, and the opposite way. When she was crying, she was happy, and when she was laughing, she was sad. It sort of mixed up her signals. So these are things that I looked out for. So in your family, I mean, you're not going to be overly obsessive about it, but at least if you can see some signs or symptoms, you can say, okay, let me just have that checked, okay? But exercise is very important for your overall well-being. Even if you yourself, before you go to bed, do some exercise, or if you can do it throughout the day, or on your lunch break, go for a half an hour walk, just to, bring some balance back and distress your body. Because we all experience stress at some level, some shape or form. And so these are the three I'm going to speak on right now. And these are how would I say it? I fell in love with these. So Ganoderma is one I talked about, cordyceps is another, and lion's mane. So all three have a great synergy, so to speak. And so they have different types of benefits, but it actually some can consume. They're edible, mushrooms and also considered as medicinal. Ganoderma, though, it actually is quite bitter to taste. So there's ways you can consume it other than a tincture to consume it and continue taking it, until you start seeing benefits and consuming it for your overall well-being. There are other ways I'm going to share with you. Now, we know that different foods have different antioxidants, right? So you need about 150 roughly antioxidants. You can do your own research on that. But the actual Ganoderma has, like, from a simple dose or consumption or cup of goodness into your body, can give you all that you need for your daily needs. Whereas you will need 5 oranges or 7 pears, or you need to have how many heads of garlic to get all that goodness into your system. And so this is about Ganoderma on this particular slide, but also I want to highlight the lion's mane. It's also really good for your overall well-being, especially for brain function. Another thing as well, I can hear some more PubMed studies, the Ganoderma is really great for anti-inflammatory effects on the body, especially the central nervous system. It also helps with, in certain situations like antioxidants, and it's very, when you look at different types of superfood, it actually targets and helps you with your overall well-being, but most importantly for symptoms from Alzheimer's and dementia as well. So it actually helps to regenerate the central nervous system. It helps with your neurodegeneration and also protects it as well. It also improves your cognitive impairment, and it helps with any damage you may have. I also want to highlight cordyceps. Cordyceps also is known for repairing and restoring the central nervous system. I'm not sure why I'm mentioning my mom so much in this slide. That was not my intention. But when she had her first stroke, we actually gave her the cordyceps in the form of a tea, along with cinnamon sticks, because growing up, we know about how good cinnamon was. So those two things helped her because she developed neuropathy. And you can develop neuropathy in different parts of your body, but that's how we knew the power of cordyceps. Even though I knew when she started consuming it, I started seeing the actual results. It also helps with your energy level. This is cordyceps, and also your respiratory system. And this is the cordyceps I'm going to mention to you now. So people who have had diabetes, and I mentioned it can be related to the dementia, can actually impact you because you have been diagnosed with diabetes or pre-diabetic. You're being proactive. It also helps with repairing I mentioned your central nervous system, but also for anxiety and depression. Because a lot of individuals who are going through a change in the body, like a stroke or a heart attack, can go into depression, can develop anxiety. And it is an antidepressant as well. So it actually helps you in a natural way to sort of reverse some of the symptoms you're experiencing, or to actually be in a calmness state. It also alleviates depressive behaviors and chronic mild stress. Again, these were found in the PubMed studies I did my due diligence on. Lion's mane I mentioned to you, looks like a little lion head there on the left. It actually helps with your gut health. Now, we know the gut and the brain, or if you're not aware of that, gut health impacts the brain health. So it supports your cognitive function, but if your gut isn't right, your brain doesn't operate right. And if your brain is not right, your gut is not operating right. So there's a balance that has to happen. So things like cognition we talk about the word cognition, but it's so important because once you have your cognitive repairs, you start feeling and experiencing a different level of awareness and health. You can feel in your body and your brain. You can have a mental clarity. So their mood also is impacted as that as well. I want to mention on the last one, which is the last PubMed below on the lower part of this slide, I put the information, the findings from this about anti-cancer, because I mentioned to you that I actually had a friend, have a friend who went through brain cancer. And there are many people you may know who in conversation or the news may have different types of cancer, which actually these 3 herbs are really good for that. I say herbs, but it's a mushroom. But I mentioned that because there are a lot of individuals who are taking medications that have a lot of side effects. Now, every medication has its purpose, but we all know with every medication, there's 2 or 3 or more side effects that can impact the organs. And what I've learned over time is that with the consumption of these superfoods, especially Ganoderma, it protects your organs. Like my cousin, she went through breast cancer and she went through radiation, and her organs were fine. Her bones were fine because she was consuming the capsules of the Ganoderma while she was before her surgery, during her surgery, radiation, and post. So I can attest to that because of what she told me and what her results and when she came back from her doctor. So the inflammation is what is causing many of the illnesses that we know about. Your immune system, your inflammation. If your body is highly inflamed, it becomes more acidic. Of course, your body becomes less acidic or more in a pH balance. The illness cannot survive in a body that has pH balance. Your body can't have too much alkalinity, can't have too much acidity. It has to have a balance with everything in life. So what I'm sharing with you is this information I'm about to share with you is about our company. So I represent a company called Organo, and we're a Canadian company. Our head office is in British Columbia, and we provide, I believe, the best source of this Ganoderma because there's many of the market you can find on Amazon, different places, but how it's grown is very telling. Ours is grown on plum logs as nature intended, and you get 100% of the nutrients versus some that are grown in plastic bags considered organic, and they have, your body can actually absorb at least 2% to 40% of that. And again, ours have a higher penetration, saturation in your body, into your blood, into your overall system, and you get the full benefit, and it comes in different forms. Now, if you're like me, maybe you're not, you don't do too well with bitterness, and I do not, no matter how much it's good for you. But I do know I love my coffee, tea, and hot cocoa. Now, before I couldn't drink coffee, now I can with this brand because it doesn't have the negative effects of caffeine that you would normally have in a regularly brewed coffee. So it is coffee, it is tea, it is cocoa, but the superfood infusion to it is what is the treasure of the earth. These things that you gravitate to, whether it's tea or coffee, they're just delivering mechanism to get them into your system or the reishi or the cordyceps. So one small change can be a lasting impact. And I know that, and I can attest to that. And for me, until you start consuming something, no matter how good I tell you it is, you will not be able to experience what I've experienced. I mean, I have the same condition as you or not, but your body will never lie to you. It tells you exactly how it feels. So here are some highlights of the products that we carry, and the teas, the coffees, hot cocoa, and we have kids as well as young kids and kids at heart like us who are consuming these products for years and have been giving us testimonials as to what it's done for them. So last week we spoke about ADHD, and we spoke about hyperactivity symptoms, and talk about autism last week, and we know that actually helps. We spoke about menopause and different things. So every week we have a different topic, and I believe next week we'll be speaking about breast cancer, and we'll have someone speaking on that as well. We'll be talking about the benefits of that, plus have someone who share her story. But in here, if you can see to your left, some bottles of capsules, that's the 3 stages of how the Ganoderma is grown and harvested. It is the root, which is called the mycelium. There's lots of benefits for that, especially for someone I've learned over time through feedback from our customers. It helps for those who have epileptic episodes. That's one of the benefits. Another one is the Ganoderma, which is the fruiting body of the Ganoderma, and that has many, many properties, including anti-inflammatory and so forth. And then there's the spores, which is considered the seeds of the Ganoderma, which it goes into the ear, goes back onto the plum logs, and germinates to make more of the spores naturally. And there's many on the market that are considered, I mentioned, organic, but they're grown in plastic bags, meaning that they're so yellow versus being like bright red or brown that they cannot reproduce the spores. So think if you're taking something in your body that cannot reproduce itself versus something that actually goes according to how nature intended it to be. So there's many different things we have in the toothpaste, which I love. The skincare does not have the Ganoderma, but there's also natural ingredients in there. But I love these because you and I may have different palettes of what we like. So you can pick and choose what you like and still get the benefits of the Ganoderma or the Reishi, sorry, the Ganoderma, the cordyceps, or the lion's mane. One of the highlights has been a surprising favorite for many people is the Royale. The Royal has all three, the Ganoderma, the cordyceps, and the Reishi. Sorry, and the lion's mane. So all three are in this. And so for me, I switched from the king coffee, which I liked, and I still do like, but I sort of have a new favorite, which is the royal, actually like with honey. So that's my little guilty pleasure right there. But I feel when I consume it, I can feel the difference in my clarity. And I actually shared with a friend on Saturday, and she slept, and she actually called me the Sunday. She mentioned she had a tension in her eye for months, and she had the 1 cup, and she calls, he goes, Kerry-Ann, I don't know, but I haven't taken anything else. I took it the night when we went out, and then I got in, slept, woke up, and the tension left. Then she had a regular cup of coffee the next day, and she had stomach cramps. It messed up her stomach, so she could tell the difference. This is actually what I was share with you in the previous slide, the capsule forms, and it also comes in therapeutic form. So the beverages you consume every day, kind of the capsules you can, depending on what your condition is, you can actually take more because it's a food supplement. There's no side effects. There's over 3,000 case studies on PubMed that you can actually take a review at your own leisurely time. But there's so much benefits that you can actually, as you're consuming it, you can tell over time that it helps. This is a royal I mentioned to you before. There's also significant improvements in, how the behavior of someone who has a brain disorder, as well as a recognition and recollection of the person or objects that the person actually has with dementia. You can see the difference over time. And so there's so much information out there, but you have to be able to go to the right source, because you can Google it. And Google, if you go Google headache, it'll tell you the worst case scenario. If you Google, like, and your eyes are like, red, it can tell you the worst case scenario. But if you go to the credible websites that have documented evidence, you can do your own diligence as well. So I mentioned to you, one small choice can be a lasting impact. What I've also found is, in my case and others who have come back to me and give me their testimonial, is that they notice that their brain fog is no longer there as they consume the products. So there's one more thing I want to mention as I wrap up here, is this tool that's part of our company called Organo. It's called Cognition. It actually helps you to optimize your brain function. So it helps with focus, it helps with your cognitive abilities, and it's a daily exercise that can be done for 6 minutes a day. And there's actually a free version that you can try to see if it's something that you'd like to have or implement with you or your loved one as part of the Organo ecosystem, the wellness platform we have. If you can see me on the left there, that's me with my little curly here. I actually did the test, the practice myself, and I sent my results into our company. And so that's how I was able to share my testimony. The gentleman above, his name is Josh. The one below it with the hat, his name is Brian. He's a firefighter at the Toronto Pearson International Airport. And so people have come back and given us a lot of feedback, but you can try it yourself. You reach out to the person who invited you, and you can inquire as to how you can get that free test done. So this ends my presentation of what I found to be beneficial to me and for people who I've connected with. I would love to hear if you have any questions, and then we can sort of try to address them as best as we can. Don't be shy. And remember, it's a safe space, so you can ask questions. Oh, so the more you're going to get your cognition, it's going to be you're going to have fun with it. There might be questions in the chat. So let me just see this question there. Oh, so Natasha mentioned that your neurodivergent, all your kids are, yes. So One of the things that I found, and again, I'm gonna give we talked about it last week with the psychotherapist. One of the things that is depending on the age of the children, you can even introduce them to the hot cocoa. The hot cocoa is actually they put more of the Ganoderma in the ones that have cane sugar or a non-dairy creamer. They put more Ganoderma to offset the sugar level so that there's no spike in your sugar. But also we found people who've had autism or ADHD where their writing is not legible. By just taking one cup, you can actually notice the difference. And then there's also the mycelium, which helps with anxiety and also to calm down the system.
That's what I would say, Kerry-Ann, the restlessness in people with anxiety, and you just can't sit still. You can't do, you're just pacing up and down.
Yeah,
Going.
nice. What we've got, there was a 12-year-old Karen Thema who's a masseuse. She gave it to her nephew at the time he was 12, and she gave him the hot cocoa and she noticed he calmed down because he has he's bouncy all the time. He's
Yeah.
not staying still. And then he had the mycelium and he took it and he went back to ask her, can I have some of what you gave me?
Yes.
At 12 years old. So and he's now I think 16.
Couple of weeks and we saw a big difference in the pacing up and down. Didn't even realize you stopped because it was so abnormal and you got so used to it. It became such a habit that finally we're sitting down long enough. You're like, what happened?
Yeah.
But it's nice how it just smoothly takes you there too. It's
Yeah, so your palate doesn't lie, especially with children. They say, I like it, I don't like it, right?
Yep.
I think I'm a kid at heart. I'm like that. My husband tells me I'm very picky when it comes to food.
I like cooking with the spores too.
Yeah.
Creative when you cook with it, but I've mastered lots of recipes with the different spores.
Yeah, the only
Better.
one I would say the mycelium has an earthy taste, but everything else it tastes like for me it tastes like chocolate. So I usually open it up and I put it in my pancake batter or my eggs and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But I do have to get some more recipes.
yeah. Up your
Someone's asking here, can you cook with lion's mane? There's some people who can cook with lion's mane. I don't have the recipes for that. You can go online and check it out. And see recipes for lion's mane, but it's a food supplement. So it depends on how your palate gravitates to certain tastes. You might like the taste or not. For me, I just like it in my beverages. I just make my coffee, and that already has it in there, and then not tasting any of that. All I'm tasting is my coffee and my tea and my hot cocoa. And then I enjoy the benefits. So yeah, that is the question that I think Mike asked the question. Yes.
Yeah.
Any other question that I may have missed?
Oh, if you taste the apples. Sorry.
So you have a question, Maria?
Yes, I have something to say. My children got diagnosed with ADHD for my 12-year-old. Joseph actually just came in. He actually takes a hot chocolate.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Yes, I can hear you.
Am I still breaking up?
You're good now.
Okay.
I think you broke up again.
It helps him go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. I think you're choppy. Yeah. But from what I'm gathering, you're saying that your kids somehow one were diagnosed with ADHD and it helps them with their sleep. Am I correct in what you said? You put a thumbs up or put it
I'm back up. I put on the internet.
Okay, awesome. Okay, you were saying, go ahead.
So I was saying that the two boys, once Jeremiah's 15 and Joseph's 12, they got diagnosed with ADHD, and I give them the hot chocolate. I give that to them for them to go to sleep, and they go to sleep. When they don't have it, they're up to 3 in the morning. So
Wow.
I know it works. And Joseph's a picky eater. He can't have eggs, can't have peanuts. He's really picky. So he loves the hot chocolate. And then there's my son that he got diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I noticed when he's off his medication now, but he's been drinking the latte constantly. He drank 2 boxes already.
Wow.
So I've noticed the big difference. The big difference in where he's more talkative. His pattern is not a 1, 2, 3, 4 blue red. It's more like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've
Okay.
noticed him more focused, so I let him drive. I give him the privilege to drive with me in the car. So I noticed that it does work. It
Oh,
does work. So
that's
and
amazing.
yes, and with me now, they diagnosed with PTSD. So it's and with anxiety and depression, all that stuff. But I don't take the medication. I don't take it. I take 4 capsules in the morning, 2 in the middle afternoon, and before I go to sleep, another 4
Which one?
of the spore powder. The spore powder. And if I don't have the spore powder, I have the Ganoderma. But I'm always having one of the 3 stages of the mushroom.
Okay. So just to be clear, we're not asking you to get off of your medication. We're asking you to stop taking it. In my mom's case, we were giving her the Ganoderma and the coffee with her diabetic medication, and then at one time they took her off the diabetic medication because her numbers were too low.
Yes, that's what
Went
happened.
down, yeah, my mom went down to 3.6. And it
Mm-hmm.
was too low, so they took her off the metformin.
Mm-hmm.
For I believe when she came from the hospital the second time when I was giving her the capsule. I think it was about month 6. So when she was home, because I would check her sugar every day, and then I called the doctor, said it's too low. So he said, just take it
Yeah.
off now. Don't give her the morning and the afternoon, the 4 pills. And when she was diagnosed, unfortunately, she passed away from something else, but um, her numbers went back up again because she was in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Being your diabetes numbers go up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I know we're talking about brain disorder, but it's great that we're talking about other things that can help as well, to be aware of certain other conditions. I see Natasha, you mentioned about Asperger's syndrome and ADHD. So they hate, what kind of food do they hate? Is it just the junk food, or is it just any kind of like vegetables? Like, I'm not clear. I'm sorry. If you want to put it in the comments, you certainly can. And it's great that you have the blue light glasses and the filter. That's really good. You monitor the screen time. That's really good. So if you want to put clarify for me, Natasha, in the comments, you certainly can. I can try to answer that. And then we're going to wrap up in about 2 or 3 minutes. I'm seeing Theodora. So thank you for asking this question. Yes, it actually is good. So I'm going to share with you my cousin. She's like my sister's story. She was diagnosed 5 years ago with breast cancer. She's heavily, endowed, so to speak. And so she was diagnosed. And from the time I heard that, I gifted her a bottle of the spores. And then she did her surgery. During that time, they checked her bones before radiation, and they checked it after. She did 20 rounds of radiation, and she was consuming the spores every day, even during radiation. And then after radiation, so I gifted her about three bottles because she wasn't working at the time. And when they went back now, because I went with her for the surgery, I took it all the radiation. And the one thing that baffled me at the time was when his follow-up, he said, "Where is the scar?" He couldn't find the scar on her breast. He did the surgery. He couldn't find it. So her lymph nodes, her breast. So the scar on her arm was small, but the one around her nipple, so to speak, disappeared. And then the radiologist checked the actual sac and showed that they didn't grow tentacles. So what it did was protect her organs, her bones, because when she went back as well to do the check her bones, they told her she had the bones of a 20-year-old. Now, she is you think I'm picky eating? She's the pickiest eater. Picky. So there's some nutrients her body's missing already. And then she had to do this radiation, and I found that her mindset was actually pretty good because they look for suicidal tendencies if you're going through radiation or chemo. And so I can attest to that. There are other situations where it's not a cure-all because depending on the stage, what you're eating, how your body is in a way of your balance with your food, your mood, all of that goes into place. Having a good support system is important. But yes, the spores, is known to be anti-cancer. And the other things you can do as well, right, to help your body become more pH balanced. Whether stage 1, stage 2, stage 4, stage 3 or 4, there is still hope. As long as you have breath, there's still hope. So yeah. And Theodore asking about, it's the same thing, menopause. It's the same situation like brain fog. You had going through your level at the first one we had, and we had to share it in the group. We spoke about menopause. I'm thinking of doing another one again, another presentation. I can send some information to you, Theodora, about that for the menopause. So brain fog is the main thing. Insomnia, anxiety is another thing for those who are going through menopause, some of the symptoms. And so in consuming either the Ganodum or the spores or the coffees or the teas, whatever you gravitate to, you will see a difference over time. But the red tea, which has the cordyceps and the reishi, I've gotten the feedback about like hot flashes and that. Whether it works for everybody, I don't know. But some people who drink coffee, it brings on a hot flash. Some people who drink coffee, it's okay. So like you right now, if you're consuming coffee, if it brings on a hot flash, then you can just have the teas, right? Or you can try the coffees to see how your body adapts to it. There's a friend of mine who just developed polycystic breasts, and she had to give up coffee, and now she's drinking the Royale. So, also you're like me, Theodora. I never drank coffee before, I couldn't. So you know what? The teas, there's hot cocoa, as well as the capsules. There you go. I'm a newbie to coffee. This coffee. Any other questions before we wrap up? Oh, I didn't intend to go this long, but I want to give everyone a chance to ask questions as best as they could and feel comfortable. So if you want to share this with someone later on, for those who were not able to join, I'm going to share this in our longevity Facebook group. It's a private group for our customers for health. And what you can do, if you'd like to invite them to that group so they can see the recordings of the previous ones and now, feel free to reach out to the person to do it. So Theodora, I'm not sure who invited you, but certainly the person who invited you can get you the products. So just reach out to them and they'll show you right now. Oh, awesome. So Maria, so just want to give everyone a tidbit here. There's actually a promotion that's running through our company where you get 25% off of the retail purchase if you decide to get the products. And I would encourage you to try the products for at least 60 to 90 days just to pay attention to your body. Because for me, at the time with my allergies, which I had like bad allergies, I didn't see anything until 3 weeks out. I didn't realize it was the tea I was drinking at the time, green tea, because I was overall healthy. So I continued it for just to make sure it wasn't an accident. I continued drinking it for about another 3 months. So from September to February, then I noticed different things about my body. Because remember, all of our body have different levels of toxicity, right? Over environment, food, different things. So it actually helps to naturally detox your body and to help you bring back in the wellness state. So I would encourage you to try it for 60 to 90 days. You can actually, there's an authorship option where you get the 25%, but you control the authorship. You can pause it, change it, whatever you want. You're in control of that, but that's something I would highly encourage you to do. Any questions before we go? We're good? Have a great day. Oh, sorry, actually a great evening, I should say, shouldn't I? Have a great evening, everyone. Blessings to each and every one of you. And again, thank you for taking the time to listen in. Blessings to each and every one of you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Kerry-Ann.
You're very welcome.